What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake NBA DFS early look. Well, I guess the first edition. So this is a little bit closer to the format that we'll be carrying out through YouTube and Twitch as the season progresses. Decided to do some preseason content. Really go heavy into it as it seems like people need it, and we're covering the preseason stuff at WiseTake.com anyway behind the paywall, but wanted to make sure that we're showing some love for those who follow us on Twitch and all those other streaming platforms where we do free content. Hit the like button if you haven't. The likes really help us out, as we always say. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. Welcome. We are covering NBA preseason DFS. So this show, we plan on doing Monday through Friday during the regular season as well, but it's our early look where I'll kind of go through, usually game by game, and just go over something early. Obviously in the NBA, it's all about following the news. The news reporting is less mandated from the league. So you really have to kind of stalk the beat writers throughout the day. And preseason is really no different. So this is, I've compiled some notes on these games to kind of get us started. And then those of you subscribe to WiseTake.com, go check us out at WiseTake.com. We will have a pre-lock live stream where we take you guys into lock, trying to update you all as we get the news. I'll be joined by PAULIE D on that show, of course. And of course, PAULIE will be doing his fast break sheet for those of you who have gotten some familiarity with it. The fast break sheet, we've gotten a lot of really good reviews. PAULIE lists his cash and GPP core, discuss a couple notes, a couple notations on the slates, things to keep in mind. So make sure you go to WiseTake and check us out. We have monthly memberships, year-long memberships. We have season, all that shit. But you can simply get a day pass if you want to try it out or take it day by day. $2.49 all it costs, and it's available at WiseTake.com. Again, you buy a day pass for NBA, you get access to the fast break sheet in our pre-lock live stream with me and PAULIE, which will be about 6:15 p.m. Eastern later tonight. Enough of the plugging. Now let's do some NBA DFS talking. All right, I gotta figure out what's up with this audio level, man. I can feel it. It's coming in low. All right. So we'll start off with the first game. Got the DraftKings screen just to use a reference. Toronto, Charlotte. Is our first game. So most of these games are rematches, obviously, of what we saw 2 days ago on the first day. Toronto, we have a 217 total. Toronto are 5-point favorites currently. Kyle Lowry is expected to be out once again. Here's the thing with the Raptors. So before the last game, we were really heavy on the Raptors 2 days ago. We got burned. A lot of the guys played well for the minutes they got, but they didn't get the minutes we expected. So a beat writer reported that Nick Nurse had said he wanted to play a really tight rotation, and he didn't. He said he was going to mostly play his starters, and the only backups he was going to play, or the second unit guys, were the guys that he said earned it in camp. And that's not what we saw. They didn't come out for the third quarter. He decided to take things easy. The Raptors have 3 preseason games this year. They had 4 last year. So they were able to kind of take that route and kind of ease in last year. This year, I don't think a lot of these teams don't have a lot of preseason games. So I anticipate him to push his guys a little bit more today. I think they do play somewhat into the third quarter, which makes them interesting tournament plays. They were really low owned also. My favorite is probably Fred VanVleet at this point. Now, full disclosure, we'll get to the next game. There's going to be some heavy chalk, I would think, tonight. And it's not in this game, it's in the next game. So as I talk about these games, mind you, this will be the only one we talk about before we get to that game. I just want to keep you informed. But yeah, with Lowry out, we expect VanVleet to man the point guard position. 6'6" is too cheap. Siakam I like as well. He was really low owned. Again, we're under the assumption, we're assuming Nurse said that he wanted, I don't know why Nurse would lie and just do the opposite. I don't think that's the case. I don't think he meant to, right? I think that was his game plan going in. The way the game was going, he wasn't really feeling it and decided to do something different. Being that they only have 3, while we're assuming it's going to be like a full dress rehearsal in that third game, maybe this is the one. Maybe he decides to rest his guys for the third. So I expect him to push his guys a little bit. So Siakam, VanVleet, Powell got the start for Lowry essentially. He's fine. OG I do like. quite a bit. I think during the regular season, he's going to be a guy that plays big minutes. Now, the usage, I'm not really sure. With Lowry out, yeah, all these guys should step up. But last year, a point per minute thing was an issue. Like his point per minute average was kind of an issue. We'll see where it goes this year. But he's someone to at least consider. Boucher, one of the more interesting plays. So we thought he was going to play a little bit more. He had some foul trouble early on. We're expecting, now remember, this team does not have Ibaka or Gasol anymore. So they have Aaron Baines. But that third spot is between Alex Len and Boucher. And supposedly Boucher is somewhat ahead of Alex Len. The problem is they are still three centers. Do they want to give more time to the starter Aaron Baines? Because this is a nut matchup for bigs, right? Do they want to give more time to Baines? Do they want to give Boucher a shot to not get into foul trouble and see what he can do? I'm not really sure, but as heavily owned as Boucher was 2 days ago, I'm curious with a price increase on DraftKings to see how popular he is today. Because the matchup is phenomenal for whichever one of these bigs gets the time, but it's just a matter of figuring out which one gets the time. Speaking of which, we mentioned Baines. He is the starter, didn't play much, looked pretty good in the early going. How are they going to use him? Is he going to maintain that 20-minute or so average that he's played pretty much throughout his career, like not really being a guy known for playing 30-something minutes, or is he going to come here with a more predominant role? There are a few guys. They have Len, they have Boucher. We know Nurse will play deep in the regular season. He's not worried about that as long as he gets his key guys, who I think Siakam and Van Fleet and Lowry are his key guys, played the majority of the minutes. So we have a question. There's a few things to consider here at the center position. Baines showed us last year that he's capable of being a high point per minute producer, and he's in a good matchup. At the same time, Boucher has also shown that same acumen. The question is which one of these guys gets to play more. And so hopefully by the time pre-lock comes, maybe we'll have a better idea. Probably not, but I think we will at least know about Siakam, Van Fleet, and the regular core starters. We should have an idea of how many minutes they're going to play. I think they're going to get more. You can't go any lower than they're not going to go lower than that, right? So I think we see him get more. Maybe we get him at lower ownership again today. On the Charlotte side, so I think they have 4 preseason games, Charlotte, right? Check my notes real quick. Yeah, they have 4 preseason games. Last year, they kept everyone around 20 minutes in the first 2 games, and game 3 was kind of where they cranked it up. And they had 4 last year also. So I kind of anticipate seeing that thing, especially because they have a lot of different sets they're going to want to see together. They have LaMelo Ball. Obviously, the center situation, they've mentioned wanting to play P.J. Washington more at the 5 a lot this year. Gordon Hayward is now on the team. So Charlotte is a team I'm a little concerned to take anyone from. I'm just not sure who's going to get the minutes. And to be honest, quite frankly, we're not even sure as far as usage what we're going to see. And that shit matters with who's on the court with who. Right? Like that shit does matter. So Charlotte, I'm a little reluctant on. We expect Hayward to have a bigger role than he had because he's playing with just less named people, I guess. Devontae Grant has shown tremendous ceiling, but again, he's at a guard position where we've got Rozier, like we had last year. Now we have LaMelo Ball. There's just a lot of moving pieces. PJ Washington is the most interesting to me because I know they want to see him at the 5 a lot this year. So from a pricing perspective, it's kind of interesting because you got to figure he's been starting at the 4 and then he has to get minutes at the 5. So I would think that means he gets some decent minutes again. Bridges is another one who showed massive upside, only played 19 minutes and he played off the bench. And in preseason, playing guys off the bench is scary unless they're just going to go out there and chuck like a Jordan Clarkson. Now he did take 10 shots in those 19 minutes. That's pretty sizable. And I think going forward, if he's on the second unit with guys like LaMelo Ball, who I think are known for their passing or whatever, or at least want to be known for their passing, they're going to need someone to kind of take those shots on the second unit, and I think Bridges is certainly a candidate for that. Kind of step things up, and we know he's capable of it from last year. So for tournaments, the Charlotte Hornets are okay, but there's really nobody here that I feel great about. And I wouldn't be surprised. LaMelo Ball was pretty popular 2 days ago. He was pretty popular, even though people knew he was coming off the bench. So yeah, Charlotte, it's a little dicey. A little dicey. You know what I mean? Brennan says the audio sounds smooth. Appreciate it, bro. Peter says I need money. Yes, don't we all? Don't we all, man? All right, we're gonna talk about like the marquee team now. If you haven't heard by now, I have to tell you. New Orleans Pelicans, Miami Heat. We have a 219 total. The Heat are currently 5-point favorites, which is kind of puzzling. So, again, we're going off of what beat reporters have reported the coaches said, right? So supposedly, well, here's what we do know. We'll start with what we do know, and then we'll go to what we don't know, and then we'll go to what we were told. So what we know is Eric Bledsoe, JJ Redick, and Wenyen Gabriel are all out, right? I don't even think Bledsoe's with the team at the moment. What we don't know is the status of Steven Adams. He's currently questionable. What we were told, Stan Van Gundy, the new coach, says he's going to play about 10 players in the preseason open. This is their preseason opener. It's their first game. Said he's going to play about 10 players. Said starters will get somewhere around 30 minutes, which is extremely valuable in a preseason slate. Now, I tend to believe him. Number one, he's a veteran coach, and it's his first year, and he really wants to see and analyze his team. Number two, we do have a few injuries, at least Bledsoe and Redick, who we expect to be part of the rotation, possibly Adams, who we expect to be part of the rotation. And number three, they only have 2 preseason games. So that's it. They just got 2 preseason games. New Orleans obviously did not make the bubble, right? So they haven't played in a long time. And we talked about on the first show we did, me and Paulie, we talked about how I think that the bubble teams, the teams that didn't make the bubble, are more inclined to play their guys a little bit more. We've seen the Knicks. Now, Tom Thibodeau has a reputation of playing his guys monster minutes, but we saw him so far in 2 preseason games, and they have 4. Certain players have played it a lot, and one of them being R.J. Barrett in the last game, played a ton. So I anticipate that he's telling the truth, and I think we are going to see New Orleans play a lot of guys, or play their starters, I should say. I think Zion Williamson might be the most popular player on the slate based off price. I think he should be. I mean, I'm playing the shit out of him. He's the cover boy on this thing, right? So yeah, 6'3" for Zion, especially if Adams is out. Now, this team has a couple other centers they could use, Jackson Hayes being one of them, obviously, and I think Willie Hernan-Gomez, right, who is a point-per-minute beast. But we did see Zion play some 5 last year, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see them play it this year, especially if Miami does not go hard with bigs on the other side. So I think Zion plays a lot of the 4 and the 5. Love Zion, point-per-minute beast. And remember, Drew Holiday is no longer on this team, which is a big usage player. And they don't have Bledsoe here yet. Redick is out, another shooter. So I like Zion a ton. Brandon Ingram, we could talk about him. So we know what his usage is. Obviously, when Williamson was there, it did impact, I think, as it should have. It impacted Ingram's aggressiveness on the offense and a little bit of his peripherals. But with Holiday out, I think that's a little bit of a neutralizer. And I think that if Adams is out, now we don't know if Adams is out. Even if Adams is in, I still like Ingram. But I like Ingram even more if Adams is out because I think we will see Zion play the 5 more. And I think Ingram may even get slid down to the 3 more in an ideal world, depending on matchup. And if that happens, if he gets slid down to like the 4, did I say 3? I meant 4 if I did. I don't know. Maybe he'll get slid down to the 4. If that happens, he's closer to the basket. I think he's more inclined to get rebounds, opportunities. So I have my eye on that situation. Now, granted, they have other guys that can play at the 4. Melly, they have some guys. But yeah, Ingram was like a usage beast. I'll go to the guards first, and then we'll talk about Hart. Lonzo Ball should play 30 minutes. He should be the guy, right? They're talking about Bledsoe potentially starting as the shooting guard, right? So either way, they need to get a pretty good look at Lonzo. We know Lonzo can get peripherals. He can get rebounds. He can obviously get a lot of assists. He just can't really score a ton. Well, he can. He's just not great at it. But I don't see how you don't play Lonzo. I mean, I don't see how you don't play a bunch of these Pelicans. In cash games, I think you got to play a bunch of them. In tournaments, if you're making pivots, they got to be good ones. They're ones with upside. But yeah, Lonzo Ball's on that list. I like Neil Alexander-Walker a lot. I think he plays a lot between the one. Remember, we are missing Redick and Bledsoe. So there's 2 players we have to fill in for the rotation. Kira Lewis Jr. was their first round draft pick. Maybe we see him play a little bit, but we should expect Neil Alexander-Walker to play a lot. So at 4-4, that seems like a pretty awesome value play at this point. So the Pelicans looking like beasts to play. Ball, Alexander-Walker as the guards, Ingram, Zion as like the 4-5s or whatever, the forwards. Josh Hart. I expect Josh Hart to play a big role this season. They've talked about it. His minutes have gradually increased over his time with New Orleans. I think they need a guy like him. They're going to rely on him for threes. They're going to rely on him to rebound, play some defense. The question is, how many Pelicans do we play? At the end of the day, raw points are the most important. So at what point do we cut it off? This player is going to play 30 minutes, but will he still outscore such and such player who's expected to get maybe 24 minutes, right? Like, we expect most of these teams that are playing in their second game, we expect them to get more minutes. The only one I'm uncertain of is Charlotte. But every other situation, if they've already played, and Miami has not already played, but if they've already played, we expect them to get more minutes. So there is that kind of point that we have to kind of, play in our head. You know what I mean? Now, let's move on. So I think Josh Hart is definitely a candidate. Now, here's the deal, right? Like, at what point does it stop? If I lock these guys in, you still got Jackson Hayes, who you can consider if Adams is out. If Adams is in, you got him who you can consider. So we want to see what the starting lineup looks like. Hopefully we have that closer to lock. But, I mean, essentially, I'll plug in these 5 guys and feel like I'm in an okay position. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm playing too many. But it seems like a pretty good starting point, at least for them. The Miami side. So they only have 2 preseason games also. Right? They only have 2 preseason games. They had 5 last year. Last year, they played their starters 24 minutes in the first game. They had 5, and they played their starters 24 minutes in the first game. Granted, some guys miss here or there. We've hinted, Spoelstra has kind of hinted that maybe he wouldn't play his guys a whole ton, and he would rely on the young guys. I think that makes sense, right? Like, this team went to the NBA Finals. So you've got some continuity coming over from last year. Jimmy Butler, Dragic, Bam. Like, I think the veteran players on this team I'm worried about. I don't think they play a ton. That being said, we have a lot of upside players on this team, right? Even without them. So Jimmy Buckets, I'm just nervous he doesn't play a whole ton. Bam, I'm a little nervous he doesn't play a whole ton. Dragic, I don't think he'll play a whole ton. He was pretty banged up last year. Tyler Hero, it's his second year. So if we don't think those other guys are going to play a lot, maybe Tyler Hero does. So I think he's an interesting option for tournaments. Duncan Robinson is very scoring dependent. That's how it's going to be, but it's threes. And on DraftKings, you get extra points for those threes. Kendrick Nunn is the big one. Because supposedly Kendrick Nunn is playing for a spot in the rotation. So he started most of last year and then got benched, kind of fell out, and then Dragic got hurt and he started again. Back in the rotation. So he's kind of fighting for his life, if you will. Playing a New Orleans team that does not look very good defensively, being that they lost Drew Holiday. So Nunn is kind of interesting in tournaments. He's a young guy that I think Spoelstra may want to take an extra look at and make a decision on and give him an opportunity to see what he can do, especially considering they only have 2 games. So Nunn is interesting. The same could be said for Olynyk and all these guys. I don't think Iggy will play a ton. Avery Bradley, very unsure. He opted out of the bubble last year, and now he's playing for Miami. I don't know. Don't know what his situation is. But I do think that there's one other guy who's interesting, and that guy is Chris Silva. Chris motherfucking Silva. So, if we're assuming that the core Miami starters aren't going to get a ton of work and they're going to lean on the young guys and Bam's not going to play a lot, we know Chris Silva is a very high point per minute player from what we've seen of him, right? They got to want to take a look at this dude and get him some time because he's not getting a whole ton of time during the regular season. And I think that the backup center position is kind of open for him. You've got Kelly O, who's, I know they're not going to want to always play at center. Myers Leonard, same situation. They play him at the 4 a lot. So I think we could see Silva get some minutes. Precious, I can't even say his last name, but he's their 20th overall first-round pick. From what I understand, doesn't seem a ton ready. He's about 6'9", I think. 6'9". So again, we don't have a guy that's really going to play center a whole ton. And I think that Chris Silva may be that guy. Now, foul trouble could be a bitch and get you some issues. But raw points, are there better centers on the slate? Yes. But as far as punting goes, he may be the best punt option that I see. Now, I saw something in the chat. I mean to ignore you guys. I'm just trying to, go through and do the dirty. But I saw somebody ask, what was it? About a bring back. I saw. I don't see the question anymore. I know I saw somebody ask about a bring back from Miami. I'll say in the preseason, I'm not really worried about a bring back. I think I'm more interested in correlating players on the same team in preseason because we're looking for minutes, right? More so than the regular season. The regular season, you kind of know what the minutes are. So now we're looking for who's going to be the most efficient with these minutes. What game is going to be the most efficient fantasy point-wise. In preseason, I'm more about like who's going to play minutes. And it's likely that if one starter, now not in a situation like Miami because we already know the veteran players aren't going to play as much, right? But the correlation to me here, if I'm coming to Miami, is okay, so I'm going to play the narrative that the younger players play. So I will play Nunn, I will play Hero, I will play Silva, those kind of guys, kind of together. Because I think if one gets that run, I think they all kind of get that run. You know what I'm saying? Where less than, well, because New Orleans is playing 30 minutes, then I think Miami will too. We don't know Miami will. Miami don't got to prove anything to New Orleans in a preseason game. They went to the fucking finals last year, right? So I'm more interested in correlation on the same team. Like, why do we like New Orleans players so much? Because we have an inkling that they're going to play 30 minutes apiece. So when the regular season comes, yes, the bring back is crucial, right? Because you want those games kind of like in football and every other sport. You want them to elevate. You want the teams to kind of push each other and force them to do more scoring, to do more things. In the preseason, man, you're just looking for raw points, and the guys that get the most minutes have the best opportunity of getting you those raw points. Dudley, Hero, and Nunn will play a lot. I think so, too. I think Hero and Nunn play. I agree. But still, tournament, you still don't know. Next, Dallas. Dallas, Milwaukee. Dallas, Milwaukee, another rematch. 224 total. 4.5 bucks are favorite. So going to Dallas. So what to do with Luka? Right? I mean, that's all it is for me. What to do with Luka? I'm not really terribly interested in the rest of the Dallas players. It's just Luka, especially with Porzingis out. So Luka played 16 minutes in the first preseason game last year, which is kind of similar to what he played this year, right? In that first game, 16 minutes. Yeah, exactly. Right. The next game he played 28. They had 5 preseason games last year. They only have 3 this year. So I actually think Luka's going to play more, right? So last year he played 16 minutes in the first preseason game, just like he did this year. Second game, he played 28. In this particular instance, they have 3 games. Last year they had 5. So I do think Luka plays. Now, the addition of Jrue Holiday, I think was somewhat apparent, right, in what we saw from Milwaukee. And Holiday did play 21 minutes, so he could play most of what we see Luka play. Holiday is very good defensively. Statistically, we've seen it throughout his career. We know it just from playing DFS. You attack Jrue Holiday on offense, is probably not going to end well. However, we are looking for raw points, and Luka Doncic has the highest ceiling probably in the NBA at this point. So I'm going to play Luka some. But just like he was a pretty good fade the last time, he was pretty popular, and we could find ourselves in that situation again. On the flip side, if you think people are going to back away because of what we saw last game, then I'm here to share that information with you that he did play. I'm not saying he will, but he did play 28 minutes in the second game out of 5, whereas he only has 3 this year for preseason. So take that for whatever it is you think it's worth. Again, I think if you're not playing Luka, it's not so much about the minutes. Don't make it be about the minutes. Make it be more about, well, it's just not a great matchup. And I think I can get it better. I could do better with my money. There's not as much, in my opinion, super strong value that we had 2 days ago when these guys were going at it. It was much easier to get Luka and every other guy you want. And we have other players that could do better raw points wise, that have either better matchups or maybe the minutes are more secure or whatever. But Luka's certainly an option. I think he gets more minutes today. I don't know if he gets 28, but I think he gets more than the 16 he got. Maybe it's a gradual increase, though. Maybe it's more like 22, which is still better than 16 for Luka. And then the third game, he gets more. I don't know. But we know that when he's on the court, he should be leaned on pretty fucking heavily because Porzingis is out once again. That we know. And that's Dallas. I'm not, you want Brunson and all these guys, that's fine. I just think we have better spots. I really do. So Milwaukee. They were a little surprising. Giannis played 25 minutes right out the gate. I was kind of surprised to see that, especially because he got hurt right out the bat. He got cut right out the bat. Maybe that pissed him off, and that's why he played so much. I don't know. But, yeah, if you're going to get 25 minutes of him again, absolutely. So here's what they did last year. The Bucks have 3 preseason games this year. They had 5 last year. Last year, Giannis played 25 minutes in game 1. What do you know? I'm sorry. Giannis played 25 minutes this year. Last year, Giannis didn't play in the first game. And then in game 2, he played 21 minutes. Again, I don't see a world where he plays less than what he played. Maybe this is the last one. I can see them playing Giannis less. But if Giannis does play, if he's in, I would think he gets another minimum 20, maximum 26, and then in game 3 is maybe a full dress rehearsal, or they unleash him today and then give him a rest for that third game. That's kind of what I expect to see. But it's funny, like Paulie said, it's scary with this team. This is a coach that doesn't play his guys big minutes in the regular season, and we're looking for it in the preseason. But Giannis doesn't need a whole lot. So I think he's got to be in the pool. He's got to be in consideration. Nothing here tells me he won't see similar minutes. I don't think he plays 18, right? I think he gets maybe they decide to go easier on him and use the third game as a full dress rehearsal and they play him less. That's a possibility. But I mean, I got nothing to tell me that's what they're gonna do, right? Middleton's another one you consider. Obviously, we'll wait to hear if one of these guys were to sit. Then, yeah, we'll load up on the other one. That's another possibility. We could see one of them rest or something like that in the other one. But they only got 3 preseason games, so I think they're just going to play together. They don't have they have Jrue Holiday now, who they have to get kind of accustomed to, right? Who did they fucking lose? They don't have Bledsoe anymore. But they got some things they got to deal with. Bobby Portis. Let's talk about him. He kind of stole the show. So Portis, I think we can go back to. He's playing the backup center. And looking at Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez didn't play much in the first game. He played so his jump. What did he play like? I want to say he played fucking 13 minutes. I don't even mean. I want to say he played 13. 15 minutes. He played 15 minutes. Giannis played 25. Middleton played 25. And he played 15. So I would think that his increase would be gradual. Now, here's the thing. Even with Barolo only playing 15 minutes, Portis still only played 20. He just kind of went nuts. 13 boards, 14 points. I think a lot of people will go back. I understand it, but I'm a little nervous in that spot because I think his ownership is going to be higher, right? He was real low owned 2 days ago, went out there and smashed, but I think people noticed, and now I'm a little worried about the ownership. But the price is still good. The matchup I'm fine with. And I do think he'll get another 20 minutes. But there's also the possibility Barolo plays 20. And we see a little bit taken away from him. Possibility. Possibility. Point being, Milwaukee did play a lot of different players throughout the game. So they made sure Giannis got his 25, Middleton got his 25, but they did play like Thanasis or Thanasis, right? That is 14 minutes. Bryn Forbes is here. He got 15 minutes. Torrey Craig got 16. So they have some new additions. Augustine got 19. So still a little I would just stick with. I'm looking at Middleton and I'm nervous. But yeah, Luka and Giannis, fine. Hit the like button if you haven't, nation. Appreciate it. Likes help us out. We need to keep a groovy train. You know what I mean? Memphis and Minnesota, 221 total. Timberwolves 1-point favorites. Let's talk about Memphis a second here. So Memphis, I believe, has some injuries they were dealing with. I believe they had some injuries. They have 4 preseason games, so that's one of the, they have some. In game 1, they played John Morant 25 minutes. Last season, throughout those 4 games, he did not play all 4. There were games that he sat. Injuries. Hit the like button if you. Okay, yeah. So, okay, here we go. Justice Winslow, Jaren Jackson, Brandon Clark is doubtful. Jonte Porter is doubtful. Looks like Melton and Anderson are not on the injury report. They played last game. So they do have some injuries they're dealing with, like Jaren Jackson. I don't see why they would play their guys less than what we saw. But keep an eye out for one of these guys to maybe sit. Maybe it doesn't happen because they have so many injuries. But like if they sit Joval, you got to load up on John Morant, right? If they sit John Morant, kind of got to load up on Joval because those are the two with all the injuries. No Jaren Jackson, no Brandon Clark, and these guys that are really kind of soaking up that usage. Dylan Brooks, of course, also you could add right into that list. We know Brooks doesn't do a whole ton peripherally, but he is a shooter. I mean, I think he scored 30 points in a preseason game last year, 30 actual points in a preseason last year. If everybody plays, I still like Morant and Joval and kind of Brooks, but I'm a little reluctant on the rest of the other players. I just don't know a whole ton. I took a shot on like Gorgie Dieng, and he didn't play a whole ton, even with Clark and Jaren Jackson Jr. missing that game. So they're still kind of spreading things out a little bit. They still have players that they could take shots on. So it's really just John Morant and Joval. And like I said, if one of them sits, and Brooks, you can legitimately put in that pile. But I would prefer it if one of those guys were out first. And again, I didn't hear nothing. It's total speculation. But last year, Memphis did rest a couple of guys in between games, and I think that's why. I mean, first game they play guys elevated minutes. Like you're hearing reports in Phoenix that guys are sore, right? Because some of these teams haven't played in a long time. Some of these players haven't played in a long time, and then some of them probably didn't get enough rest. But John Morant definitely. Solid option, looked really good in his minutes. And then Joval, man, we know he's a fantasy beast. Problem with Joval is he's close in price to some other people. For instance, Karl-Anthony Towns, who's 8,600. Naz Reid is questionable. He missed last game, but I think we're expecting him to come back. Either way, I think Towns gets some minutes here. Last year, Timberwolves had 4 games. They didn't really play their starters much until game 3. This year, they only have 3 games, and they haven't played in a long time. Right? So I think that they're going to let their guys get some run. Karl-Anthony Towns is, in my opinion, the best raw point center on the board. If you can afford to, if you're trying to spend up and it leaves you at center, or you don't feel comfortable with Silva or some of the punts, I think that Towns is the way to go. D'Lo, another one that I think played 23 minutes, shot 3 for 8. Wasn't great. But I like the fact that they're not really playing him much with Rubio. Because that means that D'Lo is running point when he's out there. It's good for Cat either way, because regardless of who's on the court with, he could do something with him, right? Rubio and Cat played together. Beasley did start. I think he's fine, but we still have a little bit of like contenders, right? We've got the rookie kid. Like different guys that can play these wing positions. You've got a Kogi sitting there. Edwards is the rookie, right? So I think that position is a little more. Maybe he wants to see what he's got. Beasley, we expect to be the starter. Beasley's the one we know is going to take some shots, and we saw he got a lot more aggressive when he got traded here last year. But I think at the moment I prefer to stick with Russell and Towns. Ricky Rubio in tournaments, I guess, but he didn't play much at all. Coming off the bench. I saw somebody else ask about bench. Do you play bench players? I'm not afraid to play bench players if I have an idea of what I think they're going to do, but I get nervous with veteran bench players. Because veterans don't often play a lot in the preseason anyway, and the bench guys are more likely to get cut because sometimes they miss a rotation. So Rubio, I think, is interesting in tournaments. I'm a little nervous, but it's a great spot for D'Lo, great spot for point guards. Point guards against Memphis last year was the spot. And Memphis did play very fast last year. They did. Phoenix and Utah. Phoenix and Utah. So Devin Booker played more. The Suns in general played a lot more than their coach let on. Their coach made it seem like they were going to take it easy. They weren't going to play their guys a lot. Then he fucking played Booker 24 minutes against the Jazz. And I think he played 22 minutes. So he says, according to him, he says that a lot of his players, like he got general soreness and he's going to take it easy in the preseason. Chris Paul did not play. And we don't expect him to play, I don't think. He's questionable. Dario Saric and Cameron Payne are out. So that's interesting. If Cameron Payne misses. So again, Cameron Payne, who did play in the first game, and Dario Saric are out. So if Cameron Payne does miss, and Chris Paul is also out, then I think we would have to look at a guy like Javon Carter, maybe Langston Galloway, but I would think Javon Carter, being as how he's been here, and it looks like he did sign a 3-year, $11.5 million deal, I would think he'd be a beast minute candidate. I would think he'd play. Because, again, Payne, who did play in the first game, is, from what I'm hearing, out. So, I think Carter could be, and realistically, even if Chris Paul plays, it's hard to imagine Chris Paul playing big minutes. So there's a good chance Devon Carter does anyway. But if Carter were to start, he may even finish the game. He might legitimately look at 30 minutes. So I think he's an option. Okay, we got Cam Johnson out. Still waiting on news for these other players, Bridges and all these guys. There's nothing that stands out to me that I'm like, yeah. But yeah, Ayton and Booker, I mean, if you think this coach is full of shit again, then yeah. But again, he's the one that said he was going to take it easy in the preseason. He's the one that said, remember, this team did play in the bubble and they won every game. They just wasn't good enough. They didn't get enough help from the rest of the league. But he says he wants to take it easy. He's talking about guys got general soreness. So that would point to us, that would say to us that these guys maybe don't play a ton. But he fucking said that in game 1. And they went out there and they played a pretty fucking good amount. I'd say. BK Bourne, what's up, man? BK, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a minute, man. Hopefully all is well with you during the pandemic. Everybody's safe and all that good stuff, man. See you, BK. Brennan says shooting guard going to be an important position to figure out as far as raw points are concerned on FanDuel. Yeah, FanDuel is real. That format to me is even tougher because now, at least on DraftKings, the salary restrictions, even though they may not be crazy heavy, they at least force your hand into certain builds. In this particular, on FanDuel, there's nothing forcing your hand other than position restriction. But you really have to make some tough decisions. You can play anybody you want there. You got some tough decisions to make. Why the fuck are you going to play Javon Carter over there if you can play anybody else at the same price? It's hard. It's hard to do that. I'll acknowledge that. It's hard to click that. Utah Jazz. Obviously, Mitchell just signed his deal. Pull up my notes. The Jazz have 3 preseason games. They had 4 games last year. 3 this year. Let me just confirm how many minutes. I want to confirm how many minutes Mitchell played. Because I actually do think Mitchell's... All right. Mitchell played 17 minutes. We saw him take that big leap in the postseason. He played 17 minutes. So last year, mind you, he's young. Last year, Jazz had 4 preseason games. In the second game, this year they have 3. In the second game, last year, Mitchell played 27 minutes, and they had 4 to work with. He played 27. They only got 3 to work with here. So I think Mitchell should play more minutes, and this is a phenomenal matchup for Mitchell. Phenomenal. At 7-8, late night hammer, right? Game all by itself. I don't think we see a ton of people play. I mean, I don't think that the Suns have anyone on the defensive end that we're afraid of. I actually do like Donovan Mitchell. And to be honest with you, I think that Rudy Gobert is kind of sneaky too. We saw Clarkson got some minutes, did what he did. But they only got preseason games. This is the second, 3 preseason games. This is the second one. So I think that Utah may at least play their guys more than 17 fucking minutes. I think we see like 24 minutes or so. It's just speculation, just a guess. And maybe by the time we get to our pre-lock show, which by the way, pre-lock show only available to WiseTake Nation subscribers at WiseTake.com. We do have a day pass available. You can cop that. You'll get access to all the NBA DFS content we have for preseason today, which is the fast break in the show. So go check it out. Day pass is $2.50, just saying. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully we get a little bit more information as we get closer to that time, but closer to lock. But I would think they're going to play a little bit. Now, here's the other interesting thing. Right? The Jazz got some injuries with the big men. Okay, so Ukoda Azubuike played 13 minutes against the Suns. He's got some knee soreness. He's actually questionable today. So we got to keep an eye on his status. If he were to miss, maybe Favors and Gobert play a little bit more. Favors expects to play 24 to 25 minutes during the regular season. He expects to play that off the bench on a regular basis, right? Got the Jazz minutes. Gobert had 17 minutes. Favors had 14 minutes. So just from that guy being out, these two alone should at least get a little bit of that. Either way, I think Favors, Gobert, I think the Jazz starters play a little bit more. And I think they have a really good matchup defensively against Phoenix at the end of the day. Assuming Chris Paul is out. Now, Chris Paul may be back. But even if he's back, I don't think he plays a ton. We're talking about Javon Carter, Galloway. I think those are the guys we're going to mostly see. But yeah, I do like some of the Utah guys in tournaments. Gobert's only 7-1 against a team that was like the nut worst against centers last year. I can get by. But that's going to do it. Appreciate those of you guys hanging out with me for this preseason. I'm going to try to do this Monday through Friday for the preseason. This will continue to be free on the YouTube channel, Twitch channel, so please support it. Subscribe to the channel. Like buttons, all that stuff. We'll do the pre-lock show and all that stuff as well behind the paywall at WiseTake.com Monday through Friday. Paulie's Fast Break is available Monday through Saturday. We're not doing it on Sundays. Sunday's NFL day. But yeah, make sure you subscribe. Hit me up on Twitter. Follow the WiseTake Twitter at @wise_take. Hopefully we get more likes. This video is going to be good for a while. But hopefully we get more likes, man, because I'm seeing some people with me live that I don't see the likes going up. Throwing that out there. But I appreciate you guys, Nation. Hopefully I see you guys for the pre-lock show we do at WiseTake.com. If not, hopefully I see some of you guys tomorrow. And we'll try this again. For myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always. Yeah.